Hey everybody, I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. Now, as most of you know, I've been diagnosed with autism ever since my infant age, and for quite some time now, ever since a certain assignment from college, I've been looking into and researching several movies and TV shows that involve disabilities, whether being physical or mental. Few examples being The Boy Who Could Fly, along with Wonder, the A&E documentary series Born This Way, which features my friend Sean McElwee, and the Pixar Spark short film Loop. But there was one film from the late 1980s which features a pretty serious but relatable mental disability, which I've been wanting to share on my blog series for many years now, and that's the subject of my blog today. Released on December 15th, 1989, the movie is The Wizard. And now, on for the plot of the movie. After his little brother Jimmy is put into a mental institution, Corey Woods breaks him out and the pair run off together to California. Along their travels, Corey meets a young girl named Haley and discovers that Jimmy is a master at playing video games. With talents like his, he could easily win the top prize of $50,000 at Video Armageddon. While the three travelers hitchhike to the competition, the boys' parents hire a bounty hunter to track them down. So, what are my thoughts on the movie? Well, in my personal opinion, this was a really wacky and relatable film. Plus, not only is this movie pretty underrated, but it's also garnered a cult following despite receiving constantly negative reviews at the time. But in order to explain why I like this movie, let's move on to Mustang notes. The movie was directed by Todd Holland, who directed over 50 episodes of The Larry Sanders Show, for which he received an Emmy, and 26 episodes of Malcolm in the Middle, for which he received 2 Emmy Awards. He's even responsible for directing Firehouse Dog and the upcoming Monster High movie, which will be streaming on Paramount Plus next month. Anyway, during 1988, a shortage of ROM chips and the preparation of a version of Super Mario Bros. 2 for the West delayed several of Nintendo's game releases in North America. One such product was Super Mario Bros. 3. The delay presented Nintendo with an opportunity to promote the game in a feature movie. In 1989, Tom Pollock of Universal Studios approached Nintendo of America's marketing department about a video game film inspired by Nintendo video game competitions. Pollock envisioned a video game version of Tommy for younger audiences. Nintendo licensed its products for inclusions in the movie. During production, the filmmakers were granted approval from Nintendo regarding the script and portrayal of its games. Super Mario Bros. 3 was one of the products shown in the movie and was used in the final scene involving a video game competition. Despite the film touting itself as featuring the first public reveal of Super Mario Bros. 3, the game had already been released in Japan during the previous year, with US magazines such as Electronic Gaming Monthly and GamePro having already covered the Japanese version. Filming took place between June 5th and July 25th of 1989. Now, one of the things I like about this movie, ever since I rented it from Netflix during my college age, was the fact that most of the whole movie is a road trip from Utah to California, and I like that it involves a kid with PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, which to me gives the movie a very sympathetic and emotional side. By the way, for those who don't know, PTSD is a mental health condition that's triggered by a terrifying event, either from experiencing it or witnessing it. Symptoms of PTSD may include flashbacks, nightmares, and severe anxiety, as well as uncontrollable thoughts about the event. And in my opinion, this disability sounds equally as serious as my own disability. Plus, I like the several classic video games that are featured throughout the movie, and since the movie was made during the late 80s, I also like that it includes several amazing and underrated songs for the soundtrack. Also, some of my favorite scenes include not only several arcade scenes, but I also like the scenes in Reno, Nevada, which I don't think is as popular as Las Vegas. Plus, I like the chase scene that happens on the Universal Studios tram tour, and part of said chase scene reminds me of my very first visit to Universal back in summer 1995, where I was traumatized by the original King Kong stage when I was about 4 years old. I should also mention that since this movie's video game contest, known as Video Armageddon, takes place at Universal, I'm one of countless people who are excited for the upcoming Super Nintendo World and the upcoming animated Mario movie next year. And that's all I got for Mustang notes. And now, let's move on to the film's cast. Our main character, Jimmy Woods, is played by Luke Edwards, whom, after this movie, acted in Disney's Razzie-winning musical film Newsies and Little Big League. The reason why Jimmy has PTSD is because of his twin sister Jennifer's death from a drowning accident, which has left him mute to almost everybody, as well as being obsessed with the idea of going to California. To me, Jimmy seems like a very sympathetic kid, and I think his talents with video games is pretty similar to Sam Brenner from Pixels. At the end of the movie, after winning the video game contest, it's revealed that the real reason why Jimmy wanted to go to California is so that he can leave his yellow lunchbox, which contained photos and mementos of Jennifer, at the Cabazon dinosaur site. Next we come to Jimmy's brother, Corey, played by Fred Savage, who you may remember from the Wonder Years, along with Dinosaurs, A Fun-Filled Trip Back in Time, The Princess Bride, Little Monsters with Howie Mandel, Austin Powers Goldmember, The Jungle Book Mowgli's Story, and the infamous Once Upon a Deadpool. In the movie, Corey doesn't want Jimmy to be placed in a mental institution, so he seeks to break him out and run away with him to California. Along the way, Corey discovers Jimmy's video game talents and makes a plan to enter him in a competition, believing that if he wins, he'll prove his competency to everybody. To me, Fred Savage's acting as this 13-year-old kid is pretty good for the time, and I think his role as Corey seems like a very helpful brother. However, there are a few scenes where Corey seems a bit stubborn. Next we come to Haley Brooks, played by Jenny Lewis, whom I only remember as Ruby from It's an Adventure Charlie Brown and the assistant director in Disney's Bolt. Haley is a young girl whom Corey and Jimmy meet at a bus stop during their journey to California. Her reason for joining the boys is in hopes that she gets her share of the prize money in order to help her father build a proper house. To me, while Haley can sometimes be a bit tough, bossy, and short-tempered, she's also kind-hearted, fearless, street-smart, heroic, and friendly. And I find it pretty interesting that Haley has quite the experience with traveling due to her joining her father across the country every summer. By the way, while I kinda don't like that she bickers with Corey sometimes due to his stubbornness, I like the scenes where she helps save Jimmy by accusing Mr. Putnam of touching her breasts, and when she summons several truckers to barricade him on the road. We also have Lucas Barton, played by Jackie Vinson. Now, it's kind of hard to talk about Lucas since He doesn't get a lot of screen time in the movie, but he does seem like a very serious video game competitor. And I think his game glove looks pretty cool. However, I didn't really like the part where Lucas sold Jimmy and Corey out to Putnam in order to avoid less competition. Last but not least, we have the film's antagonist, Mr. Putnam, a greedy bounty hunter played by Will Seltzer. This guy has been hired by Jimmy's mom, Christine, and his stepfather, Mr. Bateman, to find him and bring him back to the mental hospital. Throughout the movie, Putnam has been searching for clues to where the boys could be, and he's been competing with Corey's dad, Sam, and his older brother, Nick. To me, Putnam may be greedy, but he can also be really silly at times, even when he sabotages Sam and Nick in a couple scenes. Plus, he's also very abusive towards Jimmy as soon as he's close to capturing him. Other members of the cast includes Christian Slater, Sam McMurray, Wendy Phillips, and Beau Bridges. And now on to my final words. Overall, The Wizard is a very interesting movie, and it's also another film that I would label in the underrated category. It has a very engaging road trip story, and I like that it features a very relatable but serious disability. The cinematography is pretty good for a late 1980s film. The video games are classic and cool. Several characters are pretty memorable in my opinion, while the villain was pretty much a joke. Also, the soundtrack is criminally underrated, and after watching this movie again, despite the fact that it includes some adult language and a moment where a girl accuses a guy for touching her breasts, I think this is a movie that everyone who loves video games or who has a history with PTSD or any other mental disability should check out. And trust me, you'll be in for quite a treat. I give this movie an 89% out of 100. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to join me for my next blog, Mustang Power.